Reverend Don Beyers is the rector at St. Anne's Anglican Church. Father Don, thanks so much for coming in on what I'm sure is a very difficult day.
Thank you, Natasha. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be able to speak and share about what has happened.
Well, on behalf of our whole team, I'm so sorry. This is a major loss, and it feels so deeply personal for so many in Toronto. I noticed when we were watching Megan's item, you were nodding along. Yeah. Talk to me about that. What was resonating in her report for you?
All the images are starting to sink in now. Yesterday was so much about responding and trying to be present to everybody. But as I was watching that video clip of the church, I just felt my heart sink even deeper. Because as she shared, the church has been, it's not just simply a church, it's been a place for the entire community. And it was a gem. It had some of the most beautiful artwork that really reflected Canadian art. It reflected something about Canada. And to see that loss, but most of all, just knowing when I heard about one of my members who was there and her grief, it just hits me. It's also overwhelming in a sense,
Absolutely. There's so much in your first answer I want to return to in a bit, but I wonder if you could take us back to about 24 hours ago or even more than that, when you get that call, hey, get down to the church right away. Describe to me that call or the sense of panic you might have been having, and once you arrived at the church, what you experienced.
Oh gosh, yeah. So initially, it was about 8:09 yesterday, one of my leaders had texted me and said that he'd noticed smoke was coming from the vicinity of the church. As soon as I got that, my heart sank, and I instantly threw on my clothes, and I ran. I just ran from up Queen West up to the church. And when I got there and saw flames just shooting out of the dome at that point, I cried. What do? You look at this beautiful piece, you look at the center of the community, and I see all these people around with tears in their eyes, and I just stood there in shock. And then I realized at that moment, I have to do something. Yeah. I have to be here for people. And so fortunately, some others that came around who helped me took my stuff. I was leaving my bags all over the place because I didn't care at that point. At that point, my main concern was, how's my community? So right away, I messaged the community. I had some very good priest friends of mine organize a place where we could meet later in the day. So all of this was going on so very quickly, while at the same time trying to work with Toronto Fire, with the police, with everybody to say, how do we coordinate this at this moment? And yeah, I don't know if the emotions, as I was sharing with you earlier, I don't know if the emotions for me have quite yet hit or set in. I will be at the church today and continue over the next many weeks and months. That church means a lot, and not just the building, but the people. And that's the thing about that church, that architecture reflected a beauty of an all-encompassing, all-welcoming space. And the people are. And that's the part that is the greatest tragedy in this.
This church is quite famous in Toronto, but for our national audience to get a sense, it's a national heritage site. Describe to us, I want to talk about the specific community that attends and goes there for refuge and for enlightenment, but also what it meant to Canada to have this church. I feel like Torontonians at least agree we don't do the best job of preserving our heritage. Yeah. But St. Anne's was an exception to that. Talk to us about that.
It was. So St. Anne's, it's a fascinating history because the church was built, the present church was built in 1906. And my predecessor at the time had this wonderful vision of trying to build a place that would be a place of unity. So the church itself seated about 800 people. At its peak, up in the 50s and 60s, would have two services of over 800 people at each service. The church itself is just utterly grand in the sense that it had this beautiful dome, as they're showing in the video here, this stunning dome with the artwork by the group of 7 going up. Now, what was interesting, my predecessor, I think he had a greater vision too of how do we invite Canadian artists and Canadian artwork to adorn this church? Because at the time, so many places, both here in Canada and in the United States, so many churches would turn to Europe.
Yes.
They would look to Europe for their artwork and for their design. But my predecessor, Ken and Lauren Skeen, he had a vision to see, let's get Canadian artists. And that's very much with me right now. How do we invite Canadian artists to be a part of this again, so that this church reflects the Canada of today, if that makes sense?
You said you're going to be back at the church today.
Yes.
What are you going to do? What's there for you?
It's not so much about the structure, it's about being there for the people. I want to be there and be present for the people. I want to counsel, I want to go around to our neighbors and tell them I'm so glad none of their homes were damaged. I want to visit with the residents over at St. Anne's Place, Loft St. Anne's Place, which is behind. They're an important community to us. They do great work, and I know they're devastated by it too. I saw many of them yesterday. So I feel right now my need is to be present to the people, to the community. At the same time, it gives me a chance to say, no, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. And if that means I have to hold an umbrella up over my head and stand here, I'm going to stand here. Because the thing is, this church serves the people. Everybody, regardless of religious identity, we're here for everybody. So that's my duty, to be there for everybody, no matter what.
You mentioned there was a service at another church, because this
Yeah.
is such a community experience and a community loss. And we were talking before, and you said it was like a funeral. You're attending a funeral. And so what are you hearing from the people?
You know, it was interesting. So I quickly had formed a gathering of the community at our neighbors at St. Mary Magdalene Church, another beautiful church. And our bishop joined us as well. And as we were walking over there, it felt like it was a funeral march. And when I walked into the church, many of my members were there, and the organ was playing, and in my heart, I just felt like we've lost a loved one. You know, she was beloved by us, beloved by many people. The mood, of course, was deep pain, sorrow, grief. But my faith community utterly moved me. They rose, they're resilient. And so as we gathered together, the mayor joined us and others had joined us. As we were there together, as people shared their feelings, as we prayed, we gathered around and prayed as we do. The love that I saw in the community and the commitment, people don't want to give up on this neighborhood. We're committed to this neighborhood, and we will do whatever we can. And the faith community reflects the diversity as well, in age, ethnicity, across the board. We're going to be there. And that by the time we left the church, I could even see, and I heard others say, you could see a change in the mood. Where people, yes, we know we're grieving, but we're not giving up. We always rise. And that's the thing that's so true for Christianity and our tradition. We believe death never has the final word. And we're going to witness to that. And we're going to show that and live that in our life and work.
Father Don, what a way to start the week. What a beautiful conversation with you. Again, we are so utterly sorry for your loss. Thank you, sir, for
Thank you,
making time
Natasha.
for us today.
Thank you so much.
And good luck with
Thank you.
rebuilding.
Thank you.
Father Don Beyers joining us in studio.